Long division with decimals. Now, when you're thinking about long division with decimals, I'm going to show you how to do this without using a remainder. Because with decimals, if you try to use a remainder, it just complicates things. We're going to actually try to round. Because usually with decimals, when you're dividing, you're going to get a lot of decimals. And it's more efficient just to round it off to a certain decimal number. This time, or decimal place value, we're going to round it to the nearest tenths this time. So we have 34 and 5/10 as our dividend. We're going to divide it by 2 and 7/10. First thing you want to do whenever you're dividing with decimals is move the decimal for your divisor over to make it a whole number, because you want to turn that divisor into a whole number. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to move it one place value over, and if we do that to the divisor, we have to do the same thing to our dividend. So now, instead of 2 and 7/10 and 34 and 5/10, we have 345 divided by 27. Now, this just helps us kind of organize our answer and know where our decimal goes when we get our quotient. So, as soon as you've moved that decimal over, you want to move that decimal up to where your quotient's going to go and just set it there for now. Next, I always like to, since I don't know my 27 times tables, I just go ahead and underline 27 and then underline the part of the dividend that I'm going to try to fit 27 into. In this case, I'm going to underline 34. We know that 34 or 27 can fit into 34 one time. So, and we're using that Dirty Monkey Smell Bad to kind of help us remember the order of division operations. So we know that we can divide 34 by 27 one time. Now let's multiply 1 times 7 and 1 times 2, and that gives us the how many times we can multiply our divisor. Next thing we need to do, dirty monkeys, so monkeys is multiplication, so we did that. Now we need to do smell or subtraction. So let's subtract 27 from 34. So we know that we're going to have to borrow from 3, and we go ahead and get 14, and after you subtract you get 7. So the last part in Dirty Monkey Smell Bad is we need to bring down the 5. So let's go ahead and do that to bring down the 5. And now we have a 75. So how many times can 27 fit into 75? So I'm going to go ahead and re-underline my divisor and the part of the dividend that I'm working with. So in this case, we know 27 fits into 75 2 times. If we go 3 times, it would be too big. So 2 times 7, so we need the multiply part. 2 times 7 is 14, so I'm going to carry that 1. 2 times 2 is 4, and then we have to add 1, so we get 5. So we know that 27 times 2 is 54. Okay, and we need to do our subtract again, and we end up with 21. Now, we're kind of going to get squished here because I don't have enough screen space, but it'll work out. So let's go ahead and think, okay, well I have 21 left over and I can't have a remainder because we're working with decimals. So what we have to do is something kind of weird. We have to plug an extra 0 into our dividend and bring it down, just like we did with the other numbers, except for we're pushing this 0 into the equation. And this kind of helps us keep going with our equation to get a more exact answer, to get an actual decimal for our quotient. So bring down that 0. Well, how many times does 27 fit into 210? 7 times. So 7 times 7 we know is 14. So let's see. Or sorry, 7 times 7 is 49. So I put the 9 down there and carry the 4. So 7 times 2 is 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So we know that 7 times 27 is 189. So now we got to subtract again, just like before. This isn't any different, except for we just had to add a 0 in there. Okay, let's keep going. Looks like we get 21 again. Now, remember when we talked about we're rounding to the nearest tenths? That's very, very important, because now if we look at our quotient, we have 12 and 7/10. We can't round that yet, because remember, when you round, you need to know what the next number to the right of the number or the place value you're rounding to is. So let's add another 0, just like we did before. Then you can keep adding zeros until you get an exact answer. But in this case, we're rounding, so we don't need to keep adding zeros. So we know that if we multiply, or we bring down another 0, we're just going to get 210 again. And we know we're going to have to, we know that 27 fits in 210 7 times again, but not exactly. So instead of continuing on and just adding 7s to our quotient, we're just going to go ahead and round, because we know before we even started this problem that we need to round to the nearest tenths. So I'm going to underline my 7, and then I'm going to look at the number to its right, which is a 7, and that helps me round it. So we just go ahead and think, okay, so we know that 7 is 5 or greater, so we're going to have to round up. So we know 12 and 77 hundredths rounds to 12 and 8 tenths. Oh.